I'm talking to you though. You're the stats guy.
Yeah, we're trying to.
You're the stats guy, and we're the homies.
What is up, homies? We are back after quite the hiatus. Yeah, it's a little busy, but I've had the opportunity to do a lot of data entry over the last couple of days because I've been free. So we are going to delve into what's relevant right now, which is the NBA. The playoffs are heating up, or they're kind of. I feel like they kind of already hit their apex, and now they're kind of cooling down. Actually,
We're 2 games away from the conference finals.
yeah. I mean, the Nuggets 2-Wolves series is just too good. Anyways, we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about the regular season because the playoffs are still happening. I have been attempting to predict the NBA playoffs quite unsuccessfully, so I will make a video about that. But it's tough. It's tough stuff. Analysis is much easier than prediction, I will say. So, yeah, this is the stuff that we live for. Okay, we're gonna get into some team stats over the regular season. So starting with assists, and this is cited a lot as a marker of team success. Assists, do they affect winning, and in what direction?
Based on that, I think he's trying to lead me. But on this past season, I'm going to go with yes, they affect winning in a positive direction. The more assists you have, the more wins you like. More assists leads to more wins. My evidence here is the Houston Rockets, who are one of the worst assist teams ever. They're very young, and they kind of just play a lot of me ball, and they were bad, really bad. Whereas you see a team like the Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City, they move the ball around, and that leads to wins, higher seeds, as such.
Okay. Steals, same question. Do they affect winning? What direction?
I feel like yes, but not a lot. But at the same time, like there's less steals than there are assists or points in a game, so it might sway it a little bit differently.
Yep.
But I don't think they're as important. I'm going to stand there. I think blocks is an interesting one because you have someone like Rudy Gobert who has several Defensive Player of the Years because of how much.
4. He has 4. Give the man his credit.
I said several. I just didn't know the number.
4. He just won his 4th.
It's 4.
I'm sorry, Rudy.
Undeserving. He started COVID anyway.
He did.
So, like, rim protection is obviously important, but I don't know. I'm worried that it's not as good of an indicator as we think. Then again, the T-Wolves were good.
I would cheat in a little bit.
Okay. Rebounds, I feel like are less important than offensive rebounds because you have your second chance points, but I'm not positive on that. And then turnovers are definitely an indication. More turnovers would mean you win less.
Okay. So if you had to rank these
from most important to least,
1 being most important, and then 6 being least
important to winning.
Yes.
So more of
impactful to winning.
Impactful. To
right. And it needs to be said, like I'm saying, like plus 1 turnover. How impactful is that to winning? Plus 1 assist. So you're going to have to play the numbers here because a lot more rebounds happen than steals.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Wow. Bold as hell. Okay. These are interesting rankings right here.
That's him saying that they're wrong.
These are interesting rankings. I don't mind them. They're just really, really wrong. Okay, so I'm first just going to put an X or a check based on whether or not they significantly impact winning. And I'm talking about statistical significance. So, no. 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 Yes. No. This gets 2 check marks. Okay, so obviously Greg's rankings were dog shit. Jinx. That was a good one. So I'm just going to cross these out because there's no indication that go now. Okay, so obviously an assist helps your team. I'm not saying that, but every team gets roughly the same amount of assists.
Right.
So going up in assists doesn't really help you because, you know what I mean? It's like the difference between 11 assists versus 10 assists. Like it's probably not helping you that much where it's super impactful. Same with these other ones. Now, rebounds are interesting. +1 rebound is worth about 3 wins. Turnovers, I mean, this one kind of makes the most sense to me, but +1 turnover is worth about -7 wins. It's because there's not a whole lot of turnovers that happen in a game, and
it just pulls it a ton more.
Exactly, and it's a given up possession, right? You're giving the team a chance to score, so that makes a lot of sense, and it's an indicator of sloppy, gamemanship. So that is how these particular stats shook out. These are just the counting ones. We're going to get into, I mean, I'm not going to call them advanced stats, some like rate stats now that are different. Greg's going to have to think about because, I mean, he's got some redemption here.
All right.
These are some interesting stats, some different stats. So I'm not going to ask you to rank them because ranking these is just going to be a shit show. One of them's a percentage. But I will ask you to tell me whether they're significant and whether they and how much they impact winning. We'll start with stocks. As an avid listener of Bill Simmons, both you and I, you should know what this is. What are stocks, Greg?
We'll be right back.
No, we won't. They are steals and blocks together.
I've never heard that reference.
Bill uses it constantly.
Never.
Anyways.
Never
listen,
happens.
Bill, I apologize.
He's not listening. Steals nor blocks were impactful. So I'm going to go with no.
Ooh, wrong.
Shocker.
They are impactful. 1 extra stock per game, worth about 4 wins. Furthermore, it explains about 10% of the variance of winning, which is not bad, actually. If you get an extra stock, for every extra stock you get, your odds of going to the playoffs go up by about 100%.
Seems high.
So to break that down a little bit, a team that gets 11 stocks a game has twice the odds of going to the playoffs as a team that gets 10 stocks.
Wow.
Crazy.
Per game? You're saying so average?
Per game. Yeah, per game.
Wow.
So that's 82 extra stocks in a year. And when you say it like that, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, the next one is assist to turnover ratio.
I would like to say yes.
Yeah, you'd be right.
Yay.
Assist to turnover, I mean, obviously.
Right. You're just trying to throw me off a lot. So
I do, yeah. That is my goal most of the time. Okay, this one's pretty crazy. If your assist to turnover... Oh, what'd you do? Don't click buttons.
We're back. We're good. Screen.
If your assist to turnover ratio goes up by 1, that is worth 40 wins.
That makes sense because it's a ratio.
Because it's a ratio,
so
exactly.
That's why it's so much, yeah.
So for instance, in order to get those extra 40 wins, let's say that you had 20 assists and 10 turnovers, then your assist to turnover ratio is 2. In order to get to 3, you'd have to do no more turnovers and 10 more assists. Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You have to really bump
that
up.
Being super bad, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and for that reason, assist to turnover ratios are really low. They're all below 5. So makes a lot of sense. Bench scoring.
It's an interesting one. I feel it can go both ways because it's like, okay, if you have a lot of bench scoring, then maybe your starting rotation isn't that great, or it means you've got just a really deep team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with
regular season, by the way.
Right. Which minutes? I'm going to go with yeah.
No, wrong. But I will say bench scoring is one of the most interesting things I looked at. We're going to delve into it a little deeper afterwards. It's sort of our special topic for today that we'll do later. Okay, pace. By the way, do you know what pace is? How it's calculated?
I'm not positive on the calculations, but you can tell which teams have higher and lower pace. Like Dallas is a lower pace team. They like to take their time, whereas Denver and other teams
take it one step further and you're at the definition. It's so simple. What do you mean by taking more time? What is taking your time?
Oh, is it just the time per possession?
No,
Or
it's
shot
just
clock?
it's even basicer than that. Basically,
Basicer? Wow.
it's just possessions.
Total possessions?
It's your so pace is a team's average number of possessions per games through the regular season. Isn't that way simpler than you thought it would be?
Well, yeah, because it's like someone else, like my opponent, could have a higher pace because I have a higher pace. They're getting more possessions because I'm having more possessions. If it's just,
Exactly.
if it's a speed thing, but if it's because if your pace is changing because of like your defense and stuff like that, like I'm thinking of it as time. Pace is time.
Yes.
It's like in a game, if I'm a high paced team and I'm playing a slow paced team, but their pace will be higher regardless because my pace is higher.
Yes, and that's one of the problems with calculating it this way is like if you play a really high paced team and you're a low paced team, you're going to meet somewhere in the middle,
Right?
And so it's not going to reflect either of your actual pace. But I think a time component would be a much better calculation, but that's not how it's done.
Yeah, it's got to be way harder to track. Too.
So pace. Now, do you think it's significant, and what direction?
I want to go with. So I want to go with no because of the way that these are set up, but thinking of the example that I said of like you have a successful team like Dallas, you have a successful team like Denver, just as like the first two examples, and I feel like they're both opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm gonna go no in terms of winning. Or at least it's not very significant. I feel like it's lower than these others.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's marginally significant.
Okay, that's kind of the ballpark
I would give it one of these, not a check mark. But direction.
I'll lean wins instead of loss.
Higher pace equals wins.
Yes.
And you'd be wrong. And this was the most surprising to me because people like Bill and Ryan Russillo like to say, like, oh, their pace stats are unreal. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, look at, like, their scoring is crazy and their pace is crazy. It's like, okay, that makes sense. On average, for every extra possession that a team averaged during the season, it was worth -2 wins. Meaning that if you averaged fewer possessions, this would turn positive. But if you averaged more possessions, this turned negative. Now, I can think of a couple of reasons. One is that younger teams probably have higher pace and they win less because they're younger. Older teams, more methodical veterans, guys that want to get a good shot and know what a good shot looks like. But it's a very interesting trend, I thought. And it goes against the grain of like current thinking. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Again, it's only marginally significant, so it's a little hard to say at the moment. But yeah, with more data, maybe. Okay, 3-point percentage. This one's kind of a given. Yeah. This one was I gave it 2 check marks because it was so significant.
Yeah,
it's
so obvious.
Okay, and here's how insane it is. Okay, first of all, it predicted 73% of the variance of winning. If you went up 1%, just 1% on your 3-point percentage throughout the year, that was equivalent to 8 extra wins. 8. If you went from 38 to 39% on your 3-point shots, you could expect 8 extra wins compared to a team that was a percent lower. Absolutely bonkers. Your odds of making the playoffs for every percent increase went up by 10x. So again, that same example, 38 to 39, the 39 team had 10 times better odds of making the playoffs than the 38 team.
Wow.
Absolutely bonkers, but this one's kind of obvious. So when we did NFL stuff and we were doing like offense versus defense, this is way more important than that.
Well, and I feel like the stat, it's just the nature of the game and the stats that come from it, and I feel like they're a little bit more impactful. It's also like less guys on the court. There's less, I feel like, other factors. Mm-hmm. It's a much more controlled environment from NBA court to NBA court than like NFL field to NFL field. But I mean, like, even just to go on the 3-point percentage hit, like when you're a bad team, you're overmatched. What do they tell you to do? Like, shoot threes. Like, it gets you back into games. That's what it does. Like, that one makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm. And who was the best 3-point shooting team this year? Off the top of your head, if you had to guess.
OKC, wasn't it?
Nope.
Oh,
by far.
Celtics?
By far the Celtics, and they had by far the best record.
Right.
So, yeah.